Hi, this is Colette Bartow at the Montana Office of Public Instruction, and we are here today to talk about resources from the Montana Historical Society. I'm joined by Martha Cole. And before we get started, just to let you know that you can ask questions or view links for the resources that we're going to share today by hovering over the left-hand side of your screen. You will see um, a yellow tag for a showcase that has links, and then you'll have questions and answers. So at this point, I'm going to share my screen. And we'll go ahead and launch into our presentation. Martha, take it away.
All right, I'm delighted to be here again and have this chance to share some resources from the Historical Society. This week, I want to focus on our Montana Stories of the Land textbook, and particularly the companion website. If we can go to the next slide, let's just keep on going. A lot of people know and use our textbook across the state, but even among folks who teach Montana Stories of the Land, they don't realize how rich the resources are on the companion website, not just for teaching Montana history, but also for teaching American history, to supplement literature studies, the Grapes of Wrath, for example. So we have a lot of cool stuff, and let's go to the website and we'll check it out.
That sounds great. I even think about, because it's Stories of the Land, it ties to science, and to geology, geography. There's so many things that are related to this. It's just such a great resource. So we are going to take a look at the website now.
And this is our main website page. And to get to our educator stuff, you go to Educators and Events, then Educator Resources. And this is where we have all of our things for teachers. This is our portal for teachers. But for this today, let's go to the Montana Stories of the Land companion website. I want to point out that there is online professional development training that takes a deeper look at these resources if you want a little more time to be guided in exploring them, and you can get an OPI renewal unit.
That's cool.
So we're going to go to enter here. Everything on our website is available for anyone who wants to use it, except the tests and the answer keys. Mm-hmm. We want to keep those out of the hands of students.
Yeah, teachers appreciate that.
So when we have that teacher login, that's just to get to the password protected areas of the site, which has the tests and answer keys, and teachers can request that login information, and we're happy to provide it.
That's excellent.
So so the way it's organized across the top is by part and by chapter, and this follows the chapters of the book. So let's go ahead and go to chapter 7. They're all organized about the same. Each chapter has a PDF of the textbook itself, so a kid forgets their book at school, they can still read their assignment.
That's how my kids and I have used it, definitely a time or two.
Each one has the worksheets. There's 2 worksheets for every chapter. Let's go ahead and click on that one. This particular worksheet, all the worksheets are, most of them are skills-based, so they're reading maps, they're analyzing primary sources. In this case, it's analyzing a piece of art to look at, how accurate a representation is this of the Battle of the Little Bighorn? When was it created? By whom? For what purpose? Those kind of analysis skills.
And the questions that are being asked ask students to look at evidence and to use evidence and not just, think about it, but write about it or even speak about it.
Absolutely. So this is kind of a classic worksheet. We have some that are math related. We have some that are mapping related. A lot of ones that are analyzing primary sources. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the main website. There we go. The other thing that I love about our resources are the learning from historical document units. This particular one is a letter from Chief Victor to Territorial Governor Sidney Edgerton. And as you can see, we have a little bit of context. You can click through and view the original document. That takes a little bit of time to download. That's on Montana Memory Project.
Yeah, we'll let you click on view the original document to see that beautiful original document. But if we go back to the PowerPoint.
We have it in the PowerPoint. We also always have a excerpt, a written excerpt for these. So that's what it looks like. A little hard to read for kids, especially who aren't proficient at cursive like they used to be. So we have a typed excerpt and a document analysis sheet from the National Archives. So those are all the things that are kind of in these units, and each one is a source that relates to the main topics of the text.
That's
all right.
Cool.
Yeah, let's go back up and look more at the chapter. If we go just back to that chapter 7, there we go. So each chapter also has some interesting links, things we think kids might be interested in exploring further. And then the gold mine is under for educators. So this is lesson plans. It is additional information. You can see we linked to a Foot Locker that we talked about during week 1.
Right.
Some lesson plans we've created, information on treaties, lesson plans other people have created, just a whole variety of things. And if you keep scrolling down to the bottom, you'll get recommendations for DVDs, and you'll get recommendations for field trips.
That is awesome. And just a huge wealth of resources, and just taking that springboard from the textbook, the chapter online, and extending off. You think about differentiation and really tapping into student interest. This lays it all out for you. The teacher doesn't have to go out and search. It's, these springboards are built into the online resources.
Absolutely. And let's just keep going down to the bottom of the page. So there you have your DVDs, your possible field trips, and alignment to content standards and essential understandings regarding Montana Indians are there for you. And as I said, those tests and answer keys, which go ahead and click on it. It won't let you in. But if you go up to textbook homepage, you go to login there. That's where you're going to need to log in. If you don't have login information, you go to click here, you fill out this form, and usually within 24 hours, someone will get back to you with the username and password. The only caution is to use your school email address, because sometimes we do have kids creating Gmail addresses to try to get this information.
So teachers, please use your school address to request the login information. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So that's like the really quick tour of this. This is just one chapter of many. The book goes starting, as you said, with geology and geography. We talk about the dog days, the pre-contact period. We talk about the early contact period before Euro-Americans came here, but when there were horses and guns and other trade objects.
And I think one of the things I'd like to point out about this is that this is an example from the textbook itself. It uses ledger art, basically, and just the richness of the visual of the textbook is something that you can still access with the online resource too. So you have that connection to art, you have that connection to the people who are creating the art, and I think it's beautifully done.
We were really lucky to be able, when we were creating this textbook, to draw on our really rich collections, both in our photo archives and our museum collection of artwork, of artifacts, and of photographs. Made this an incredible book.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It goes up through the 21st century, and we tried to integrate Indian education for all into almost every chapter, and really integrate, as opposed to the chapter that I pointed you to was a pull-out chapter that was specifically talking about the treaty period, but every other chapter, the Great Depression or living in New Montana, any of these, if you go to these chapters, you'll see that they talk about Montana Indian issues and non-Indian Montana issues in a really integrated way.
I have to tell you, one of my favorite things, for those of you who are always looking for maps, that there are those black line masters, outline maps of the counties, rivers, and that. So that's just another added resource that I think is really handy for teachers to use.
Another thing I really love is that useful link section. There's a timeline, a Montana history timeline.
I think that's really cool, actually, myself. To be able
That
to look at this interactive and find a place.
Yeah, go ahead and make one of those pictures blow up. Just if you put your thing over the picture, it gets bigger, you know. But there's also a whole bunch of cool Montana history links. Everything from our Women's History Matters material that we'll be talking about next week. Montana the Magazine of Western History articles, Montana biographies, Chronicling America, which someday in the future, if we ever do this series again, I want to do a blast on Chronicling America.
We can do that. We could do that.
Digital newspaper project. So all sorts of different things that could be useful to teachers as they design their Montana history curriculum.
That's great. And I think we'd like to just invite you to explore, where this resource is, explore how you might use it with your students in your classroom, and get back to us about how you are using the resources too. So as always, we want to thank you for joining us. We are finishing off this series of 4 talking about the Montana Women's History Project. You can see a recording of these sessions on the Montana Historical Society YouTube channel or on the Montana Teacher Librarian Google site. But as I was saying, if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact either Martha or myself, Colette, or Deb Mitchell, who joined us last week. We'd love to hear from you about how you're using the resources, and what are other topics, like Martha said, Chronicling America might be another thing that we launch into with a future digital blast. So thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate the time that you're taking to learn about these things and want to hear from you.
Absolutely. And especially, certainly teachers who are doing Montana history, but also people who are taking these rich primary sources and integrating them into other areas of study.
That's awesome. So thank you very much, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right.